Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dave's Top 3,000 Songs of the Rock Era. Today I'm up to song number 2148. I'm now on a Shame, Shame, Shame by Shirley and Company. This one peaked on the charts in 1975, I believe, released December the previous year, 74. Anyway, here's a picture of the single, and it was also released on their debut album with the same title, Shame, Shame, Shame. And here's a picture of the two lead singers of Shirley and Company. That was Shirley Goodman and Jason Alvarez. I'll get into them in a minute. First, I'm going to feature a sample of the song Shame, Shame, Shame. So, anyway, here it goes.
Oh, I feel something, baby. And I want you to know about it. See, I want you to feel it too. So just listen to me, baby. Can't stop me now. Hear what I say. My feet want to move, so get out my way. I'm gonna have my say. I'm going to every discotheque. I'm gonna dance, dance, dance. Ooh, till the break of day. I say shame, shame, shame. Oh, shame on you if you can't dance too. I said shame, 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 shame on you if you can't dance too.
Okay, that's a minute or so of Shame, Shame, Shame by Shirley and Company. I think it's a good song. You can tell it's a disco song, disco hit. Yeah, it was an early disco hit. I mean, disco hadn't really taken off, at least in the USA, until I'd say around 19. It really took off after Saturday Night Fever, which was kind of early in 78. But, it was kind of, making its debut into society, I'd say the mid 70s. 74, 75 around then. I don't think it really caught on as much, and I think it was more known as like funk or maybe R&B or soul. I haven't even heard the word disco used until 1976, by the way. But anyway, what else can I say about this song? It reached number 12 in the USA. It wasn't a huge hit in the USA, but it was a much bigger hit in a lot of other countries. As a matter of fact, it went top 10 in 10 countries other than the USA. It was on number one in four of them: Austria, Belgium, Netherlands, and West Germany. And I guess another kind of act I can compare this phenomenon to is ABBA. I'm sure you guys are familiar with ABBA. ABBA was a huge success, and they started out in '74 and had a number of big disco hits in Europe in the mid to late '70s, but they were never anywhere nearly as popular in the USA. And I think you can pretty much say the same thing for Shirley and Company. I don't know. It's kind of weird because I think I prefer the early disco, actually. I think the disco had its run after 78. By 79, everybody was sick of it. I think it was mostly American disco people were sick of. I never got sick of ABBA. But anyway, yeah, so I guess that's pretty much everything I have to say about this song. The other thing I want to say is that there were a couple covers of this song. Like I said, it was very popular in Europe, and so there were two European covers. First was by Isabella, forget the next name, Isabella Skorupko. She was a Polish Swedish artist, and she had a hit with it in Europe. It wasn't an American hit, but it was a hit in several European countries. This was in 1992, and later that year it was also a hit for this artist, Sunita. She was a British, I guess, rock or disco artist. And that was not a hit in the USA either. So that's kind of, I think, everything I have to say about the song Shame, Shame, Shame. I guess now I'll talk a little bit about Shirley and Company. This is just a couple members. They weren't together very long. They were only together for a couple of years, from 1974 to 1976. They were an American disco group. I don't know where exactly they were from. I couldn't find out that information. But their members included Shirley Goodman and Jason Alvarez. I believe they're the ones shown in this picture here. And also Walter Morris and Bernadette Randall, Selden Powell, Jonathan Williams, Kenny Jeremiah, and Clarence Oliver. Um, yeah, and I guess I'm just going to go through hits. They didn't have very many hits. I think you could call them a one-hit wonder because they only had one top 40 hit. That's kind of how I think of a one-hit wonder, although there's different definitions of that. But Shame, Shame, Shame was the first hit, and it went to number 12 on Billboard, number one R&B. And they followed that up with Cry, 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 which was a minor hit, went to number 91 pop, and number 38 R&B. And those are all the only hits they had in the USA, but then they also hit with I Like to Dance. Well, that was an R&B hit. It went to number 91. So those are the only hits for Shirley and Company. I guess it's too bad because I do like this song, Shame, Shame, Shame. I just want to say one more thing about them. You guys might be familiar with Shirley Goodman. She was the lead singer, and she started out a long time earlier. She was with a duo called Shirley and Lee back in the 1950s, and they had a hit in 1956 called Let the Good Times Roll. Pretty excellent song. I didn't put it on my list, though, unfortunately. It's probably an oversight of mine. Yeah. So I guess that's everything I have to say about the song Shame, 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 as well as Shirley and Company. So thank you for watching. Here's a little disco thank you for you guys. You guys rock, and I'll see you next time. Bye.